It's episode 99, y'all. Just one away from our big 100. It's going to be filled with special guests, hopefully some of your own video shout outs, along with prizes, surprises, and tons of fun. But for tonight's show, the crew are all in the house, and we want to share some of our best elk hunting moments and why they are so memorable. Some aha moments and things that we learned along the way. Some special moments and just some plain old good times. That along with our ElkBros shout outs and letters from our ElkBros mailbox. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas, and from Katy, Texas, the co-founder of the Venezuelan Mafia himself, Luis Gonzalez, and from Dallas, Fort Worth area, the other co-founder of the Venezuelan Mafia, Manano Rateron, and from Cimarron, New Mexico, our elk hunting coaches are in the house. Joe Gillia and Leroy the Ninja Chavez.
Hey, by the way, I just gotta say, one of our listeners sent in the letter and said, "Hey, Luis, you shouldn't be calling yourself the leader of the Venezuelan Mafia. You should be calling yourself the king of the Venezuelan Mafia."
King? Who's that guy, man? We'll put the hit out on him right now.
The king. That's what he said. Didn't you guys read it? You guys got
the king. That guy.
The king.
he obviously doesn't
Hey man,
know.
I thought co-founder was good. Nobody gonna get their feelings hurt.
Are you kidding me? I'm gonna tell you right now. Yeah, I mean that's what he said. I mean, y'all can interpret it how you want. That's the way I interpret it. Okay.
Always never a dull moment with these two in the house.
The never ending.
Send me his email address, please.
So he said, since you guys are so big on pronouncing, oh no, this is not it. In the words of Twin Lannister, for those of you who listen to Game of Thrones,
anybody who GOT on us, man. Are you serious?
Yeah, anybody who must say I am king is not king at all. Replace the king with leader. How many times has Luis declared he's the leader? So he's pretty much telling me I should be king.
That's not what I'm hearing, man.
I don't know. You can interpret however you want to. That's the way I am interpreting it.
You are saying you're the king all the time. I'm not. I should be the king.
Look, that's why I said co-founders, boys, because that's what it is. As a matter of fact, I'll just put it out there. I'll put it out there for everyone to hear. Big O coined the Venezuelan Mafia. So at the end of the day, these boys are made men, and it's because of us.
Made men. I like that, man. That made men in the Mafia. I like that, man.
They got made. So we're calling it co-founders. We're going to find out which one's going to be the king here before.
Well, they might be the assassins, but we're pulling the strings. See, so
exactly.
That's
how you doing,
is, man? That's all it is. Yeah. And I got to tell you, man, your video, your South Texas style, hit YouTube, and it was so cool to see you and Logan out there together like that.
Joe, what you did with that was so special, man. I can't thank you enough. You know, we put a few little videos together for Joe, and then he lights it up with some really cool production stuff. And you know, I told Logan, I'm going to make you famous, son. And the South Texas Slam is viral. It's pretty cool. We appreciate all the help, Joe, you and Chav give us on the support side with all of the cinematography and everything that's going on, man. There's a lot of cool stuff. Well, guys, you know what time it is. It's time for the ElkBros shout-out. If you're new to our show, we usually have a few shout-outs to cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week, Joe.
Yep. And we're gonna rock it, man. And I want everybody to know, Chav, man, has been cranking on this and doing all of our research for this and really taking a load off and makes it so much easier getting ready for the show, because this takes a lot of work. And Chav's really been putting some homework in there. So our top listening city this week is 20 miles northeast of Denver and was founded in the 1870s as a stagecoach and railroad depot and farming community. Recently named one of the 100 best communities for young people, and I imagine that's y'all right around that 20 to 30. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. It is home to the Murray Maze Maze. Y'all got that right? The Murray Maze, Colorado's longest corn maze that is shaped like a bear and 2 wolves, and is 4 miles of twisting trails across 15 acres of tall corn, right in Brighton, Colorado.
Brighton, Colorado in the house.
Nana would get lost before even getting into the maze.
Hey. And look, I got to put this out too, man. My sister-in-law heard our podcast come out, and she goes, "Who's doing that mule noise, man, in y'all's podcast?" Look,
What a mule!
It's not eeyaw. It's not eeyaw. It's eeyaw. Yeah, I mean, we gotta set some people straight, man.
I can't tell the difference.
Mule noise. Well, your phonetic ears wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, but this is a guy that knows the difference between king and leader and all that stuff.
Yeah, man,
So,
he went straight to Targaryen and all that, man.
yeah, he went Game of Thrones.
Straight Game of Thrones on us, bro.
I have no idea what Game of Thrones is, but I'm glad you guys enjoy it, man.
Well, look, I'm gonna tell you right now,
That's all right,
man,
nobody's
you don't know
perfect.
What you're missing. You don't know what you're missing. Show now.
Okay, let's proceed. Our next top listening town booms whenever oil prices are high and falls on hard times when oil prices drop. It is located in an area of eastern Utah where vast oil resources extend into western Colorado. It was first settled and plotted by A.C. Harmston. All A.C. wanted to name it Dry Gulch City, but his wife wasn't having any
This
of
is
that.
perfect for you, Manano, man. This sounds like a familiar thing here. Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going there, man.
Really familiar to me. The name, and convinced him to name it after a family friend and the 26th President of the United States. This is going to Roosevelt, Utah.
Roosevelt, Utah. AC.
Utah.
AC wanted to name it Dry Gulch City, kind of like Manano wanting to name his daughter after a doe or a
Cow.
elk. Or,
Well, it was a big fight. It was a big fight.
Man,
Fight.
I don't want to be around one of them fights.
We're all glad Anna won.
No, she did not won.
All I want to say is
God win.
Roosevelt, Utah is not Dry Gulch City. So we know, a lot of times the guy feels like they're the head of the household, but we know who turns the head, right?
No doubt. Yeah. We all get the last word in our house. Yes, baby. Yes, baby. That's the last
Sounds
word.
familiar.
Yeah. Joe, next up from the land down under, son. Our next top listening city is Australia's 3rd most populous city and the capital of Queensland. It's known for its youthful zeal, charming vibe, and 280 days of sunlight a year.
All right.
The city has countless tourist destinations, among them the Australian Zoo, created by its legendary owner, the former crocodile hunter himself,
Wow.
Steve Irwin, in none other than
Crikey.
Brisbane,
Wow.
Queensland,
Crikey.
Australia.
Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. Who would have thought, man?
That's so cool.
Oh, man, that is awesome. Hey, mates.
Thank you.
We appreciate you guys, man. We appreciate you.
And that's one country I do want to visit.
No doubt. I was telling Joe that's one of the countries I have not gotten to go to, but I was hoping when I worked for Santos, did a bunch of work for them, that we'd get to go to Australia, but they closed shop before we got to go.
They have some of the coolest critters in that country, man.
Big time.
Yeah.
Cool people, too.
Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all.
Okay, up next, this area was the home to many Native American tribes before the settlement by people from the east. The squiggly tree is the city's logo and symbolizes its identity as Wisconsin's Park Place because of its extensive park system, which includes 64 parks on over 200 or 2,500 acres.
Oh.
You can visit the historic home where Abraham Lincoln slept, check out the Rock Aqua Jays water ski show team, or help cheer on their Janesville Jets hockey team in Janesville, Wisconsin.
Oh, man, the cheeseheads are out.
The cheesehead. I want you to look so far, man. We got Colorado, Utah, Australia, Wisconsin, and we're coming back west on the last one here.
That's right.
Where's that at, Luis?
And this is home of the Jim Bridger Station, which is the largest coal-fired electric power generation facility in the United States. Our next up listening city is frequently referred to as Almond Stage Station, or simply Rock Point, and was originally built to accommodate stagecoach travelers. Located in southwest Wyoming, it sounds like just the place to be these days. In 2000, it had the whooping population.
Wait.
Whooping.
We don't want him to take a whooping, man.
Whopping.
The whopping.
Whopping.
The whopping population of 3 folk.
Language limitation.
Number 3.
Oh, my goodness.
Really say that again? Because we didn't understand you.
Yeah. How big was the population in 2000?
3.
Whooping,
What?
man.
No, I think.
3.
Are you sure about that?
3 folks.
3 folks.
Oh my God.
Since then, it has had a population boom, and as of the last census, it ballooned to 141.
Oh my
whopping 141. And this is Point of Rocks, Wyoming. See y'all.
Point of Rocks.
Of rocks.
See y'all. He puts them little, you know,
Dingers.
and then he was like, "Whoa, the order hasn't changed." Well, guess what? The order changed, and there is a reason for it. Whooping versus whopping.
I figured
It's kind of like my first English lesson in the U.S. when I was trying to learn how to say the beach.
Oh, Lord.
I don't go. Don't even pronounce that word.
In Venezuela, we had many beautiful, cheap beaches that were close to my house, and you could go there with your friends.
No. I say all the time, I say, I'm going to the lake or the pool. I don't know. I don't know.
All I want to know is, man, when I go to where was this place when I started teaching, man? I could have taught in Point of Rocks.
Yeah. There's no doubt.
We'd have had the whole class and
all 3 folks of them.
all 3 folks of them. Yeah, way
Good,
cool, man. Word. Hey, let's get with it, man. I'm glad that we're getting into this right away because, guys, this is going to be awesome, man. The whole goal of tonight's show is to talk about our best hunting moments for each of us that have really made us the elk hunters that we are. And what I mean by that is it has helped us develop into our thought process, what we do when we're out there, how we think about things when we're out there, how we react to things when we're out there. And for each of us, because when you look at this group, man, how diverse is this group? Chav and I going on 40 years out there. Gilbert, you've been in there since, gosh, man, I think it's about 12 years of elk hunting. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Manano and Luis. I mean, Luis, you going on 6 years with us now, right? I think we're hitting in 6 years.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
I think we have 5 under our belt heading into our 6th year, right? So
probably.
That's 4.
And Manano 4. So, I mean, there's all different levels of edumacation here in the
and then you got a bunch of intelligent people, and you have Manano as well. It's like super diverse.
So, with all of this happening in the background, I think you guys know exactly what we go through, man. When we're out there.
Oh yeah,
you can kind of get a glimpse of what elk camp's like. 7 days.
I think this is a great topic, Joe, and I have several memories to share. I'm gonna start with the first one that I believe.
So look, we're going to be talking about aha moments, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And one of them, it was a long day of walking, as my dear Beto said, it was a hike.
It was a hike.
How did he say it? How did he say that?
That's a hike.
It's a hike. Yeah,
Hey guys, that's a hike. It's uphill both ways.
Yeah.
there and back.
Wherever you go, it's a hike.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was a long day. We were up. I mean, we got up at 3 o'clock and we walked a lot that day. In our way out, we hear some bulls coming. It was I believe Joe and Luis name it as a perfume park.
Oh, okay. I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about, right?
yeah. And long story short, I was I don't know why, but I was the designated shooter, and I got behind a jack pine, small jack pine, and it was an open field, kind of a, I don't know, 100 yard, 50 yard,
Small park.
open field. And all of a sudden, I saw a little rack coming down. I mean, it was 15, 20 yards when I initially saw it. Yeah. And as he kept coming, I drew, but I was behind a pine. And I had like, I don't know, like
And
4
standing
or
up.
5
And standing up.
and standing up. And that's my point where I'm going right now. And I had like 3 or 4 little branches in my way. And guess what? He was at 5 yards. 5, because we measured it. And I was in full draw. And I tried to get on my knees, but I honestly I back then I have no practice shooting my knees, and I said, okay, if I make a marginal shot, I'm gonna regret it my whole life.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get
Well, okay. So
clear
instead of the
path and-
excuses, what was the aha moment?
Well, the aha moment was afterwards when when Joe came and said, "What in the world? You have an elk at 5 yards and you didn't shoot it." And I said, "Okay, this is gonna be an aha moment for me and in my learning curve.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go there.
Absolutely.
That was one of my special moment that afterwards I realized that I was really rookie.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
and Joe told me, "Hey, Manano, he's a coach." From the minute you met Joe, you're gonna realize he's a coach. And he took me in my back, and I was really upset. And he goes like, "Hey, you have a great opportunity. You should have get on your knees, and you have a clear path right here." And when as I got into in my knees, I mean, it was like a tunnel, a perfect tunnel.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, Joe, I'm so sorry. I was really, you know, emotional."
Yeah.
And but when I got back to the camp, I started thinking about it, and I said, "Okay, this is gonna make me a mark in my chest, but I would never will do the same again." And this is kind of one of my biggest aha moment as far as my learning process, because it marked me.
So I want to fast forward now, and this is the proof of the pudding. Okay, so we take that, and what was so funny was Manano even. It's funny how your perspective is on things, because even after we got done, when we talked about this, Manano was like, well, he was 15 yards away. And we were like, no, dude, he was like 5 yards away.
5 yards
And he didn't
away.
believe it till we got back in the same park the next year and stepped it off exactly
Yeah,
where he was at.
And I was going there because 2 years later, we went there and we measured.
Yeah.
And you said, hey, it was just 5 yards away.
Yeah.
And I was, no, it was 15 yards away.
No,
and
I was with y'all when y'all measured it. I remember.
Yeah, and then we start arguing back and forth. And then he pulled up the cell phone.
Yeah.
And
he
had the video.
And he had the video, and he go, hey, look at the video. Look at the branch. It was freaking 5 yards away.
Funny, I watched that video today. I've been looking through all of our videos, and I watched that video today. But it's
one
true.
of the things that Manano's prefacing it so well, and we want to get out to the listeners is, number one, you don't want to have an object in front of you. You want that behind you. And you want to be from your knees. If you can get to your knees in the timber, a lot of times you'll be able to thread something under those limbs. And they won't, if you keep them behind you, you ain't got to worry about what's in front of you.
It was like a clear tunnel under the pine.
So what I want to do though, Gilbert, is that's what I do, and most of the time I do that because of the situation of where the branches are, because of the areas we're in. Most of the time those jack pines, they start growing that 4 foot up there, and it's clear underneath. But there's going to be a lot of guys in situations in different places where that might be different. Right. They got to be stood up because all their growth is down in the bottom.
Move aside.
Right. Yeah. Or there's situations where, like when you killed your bull last year, Gilbert, standing up, you wouldn't have the same angle.
That's one of the only times I've shot a bull standing up, Joe.
So I would say the key is to make sure that you are in the position with the clearest shooting lanes, and to put yourself in that best position. And you don't want to be behind stuff that limits your shooting lanes, and you don't want to be where you're going to have branches crossing or on the ground have brush in the way. It just depends on, you've got to really look at where you're at, assess where you're at, because I want to fast forward. That was Manano. That was 3 years ago. I want to fast forward now to this year, and when these people see his kill this year, you won't even see Manano, man. He is down on the ground on his knees, and I mean, I take
behind a big rock.
Manano, I keep looking at it, dude. That bull has to be 10, 12 yards away from
I figured 15.
Yeah,
it was 15 yards away, but it was a big body bull, and that's why it was a big body bull.
But what the point is the lessons learned from that moment. I mean, you carried that forward into and the way you moved into position, how you aggressively moved up into position was huge, because that was not the Manano I knew 2 years ago. That you were an elk hunter, an aggressive elk hunter, making intelligent decisions and putting yourself in position.
Whoa, you're pushing it now. With
He's being honest, Luis.
No, but you know what? I wanna chime in there, because not only all that is absolutely true, because I was there on both occasions, but also the cool thing about the three of us being together during those moments is because we're able to kind of learn from each other. Mm-hmm. So that also served me as a teaching moment as well. So we're both picking up from each other's learning process.
Yeah, that's
which is pretty cool.
Big time.
Yeah, and one of the reason I brought up this point was that I was blind, so focused on the animal, and I didn't see I didn't lay out the possible
the possibilities of the shooting lanes where he could be.
Yeah, and I realized about the branches after the bull came in. And that's a point that I will never, or at least I'm gonna try that never in my life happen again.
So here we have an aha moment of one of the youngest in the group, and let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Chav, what about you, man? I mean, what was one of your aha moments?
Okay, well, I was trying to think back, and God, there's been tons of them, but I want to give two examples. One that happened a long, long time ago, and one that just happened recently, because every time you get out there, you learn something. And the first thing, when I first started hunting with Joe is, we'd hear a bugle that just sounded so bad. You knew it was a hunter that was just, his first time ever attempting to bugle. And we'd go towards it anyway, just to see, who we'd run into. Maybe it's a friend of ours from the area. And it turned out it was an elk. And there's a lot of times that Joe and I would split up and hunt different areas. And I would hear what I thought was a very distinct Joe Giglia bugle. and I say, oh, I better go the opposite way because I don't want to mess up his setup. And it turns out Joe wasn't even there. It was an actual elk. So, and I know somebody just mentioned that in a story lately. If you hear a bugle, investigate, because you never know. And generally it's going to be an elk.
Yeah.
So that was one of the aha moment from the past. And then one recently is, Joe was showing me a video of this ultimate predator decoy. And I said, that I don't know about that. It had animals running right up to the decoy and stuff. And I said, well, maybe it'll work, but I just can't see it working. And Gilbert, Joe, and I were caught out in the wide open by 3 bull elk, small bull elk, and they just looked at that decoy and came right in. And I think Joe missed the first shot, and they stayed in the area. So it was like, okay, I'm a believer. I'm not a skeptic no more. So that's something that I learned, just recently, that those decoys do work.
Yeah, that's huge. And I mean, it's all about selling it. I mean, because we've had you're going to see on video where me and Gilbert we get caught out in the open. We pop open the decoy, but Gilbert's off my shoulder and I'm kind of walking with it. And there was a little bit of, we still had that bull still with Gilbert off my shoulder, all of this mass behind the decoy between the two of us, because I ain't a small boy. And I'm on behind the decoy, sticking out kind of on each side. Gilbert's on my shoulder trying to videotape. We're having a conversation. You shoot it. I don't have the shot.
We're talking.
Yeah, he's telling me, you take this. I'm like, dude, I'm videoing. How am I going to shoot? Like, dude, you got the thing on your bow, man. You shoot him. And he's like, no, you shoot him. I'm like, how am I going to video if I shoot him, Joe? And the bulls are all standing there looking at us like a calf looking at a new gate.
The bulls at 45 yards still came into 45 yards and was like, he would start to go. I'd cow call. He'd go, what the heck? And he'd turn broadside. And, the hard thing about it was, and this is what I'm going to tell you about one of those decoys, is if you end up holding it up in front of you long enough, it gets your arm so tired doing that your shot process gets a little weird, man. So
not a little. It can go away because your arms are so fatigued you can't pull back.
Well, and that was one reason, man. I was like, man, I can't pull back and do this. I'm pretty strong, but man, you also have to realize when things aren't right, and you got to make those calls. And with that brush between that and the way I was going, I was like, well, I'll just cover your shot, Gilbert. Gilbert's like, I can't shoot. So,
I can't. I don't even have my bow ready. I got my video camera out, man.
I think they're a huge asset. But the other thing I'm going to tell you guys about decoys is decoys are only as good as their accessibility. So you have to find a way to be able to have them so that you're able to get them out, you're able to deploy them fairly quickly, and you're trying to, and you got to play with that deployment, because I tell you what, you pop a decoy up just like that,
it can send them in another county.
So that's an aha moment, right?
Yeah.
We've had a few decoy. So the
and you don't want the sun at you in front of you either, because standing up there with the decoy and your shadow in front of it. Whoop,
Yeah. So those have been some aha moments, man.
For sure.
What about you, Brother Luis?
All right, brother. I got a few, and
You got ton of it.
of course I do.
Everything's an aha moment, right?
Yeah. I mean, so no, one of the first ones is very similar to what Manano went through. It was that first shot opportunity I had the first time I went elk hunting with you guys, and you know, we had a small window in which that bull went through the behind us, and you pulled me by the backpack and put me in position through where we just had a window and stopped the bull right in that window. So I was kind of froze, right? I mean, that this bull came from behind us, you were calling and we didn't realize, and we had one come in silent from behind, and he kind of started slowly walking away, and I was just kind of standing there not sure what to do. And I remember you pulling me by the backpack and just moving me in position to where there was a shooting window through the brushes, and that's where I took the shot. So it again, for me, it's just like understanding the animal as far as what they see, what they care about, what spooks them and what not. That was kind of one of those, okay, maybe I have a bit more of flexibility than I think I do with these animals.
Flexibility in what way?
In the forgiveness as far as movement.
Okay.
That, you know,
when they're moving.
Yeah, you could be a bit more aggressive and still may be able to get away with it, and also get an opportunity, which if you don't move, then you won't get an opportunity.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing I want to define that aha moment in that there are times that if you're complacent, we only get so many opportunities. And sometimes an opportunity all falls into place itself. And there are times that an opportunity is close to lining up, but unless you do something additional, you're not going to have the opportunity. So you've got to make a move, or it's opportunity lost. And again, I want to fast forward from that first time that you and I ever hunted together. And I literally, guys, I mean, he's frozen and that bull's over. He's in a position where he's not going to have a shot. And I know he's not going to have a shot. So I literally grab him by the backpack and pull him over in front of me and put him in position and go, there it is, you know. And now I want to, again, fast forward some years after, and I believe this is the year before last. Yeah, it's 2 years ago. And you have a bull coming into you, and it just happened the way he came. You ended up with an aspen tree probably 8 feet in front of you, blocking your shot. And you realize the situation, you step out to the side at full draw and close the deal, man. It was a total learning curve process where I saw the growth, man. I mean, it was just so cool to see that.
Yeah, it was. And the other thing is, you know, lucky enough to have the off-season experiences hunting down here that have given us archery learning moments, right? Aha moments. One of them was hunting from the tree stand. I shot over a couple deer in public land, and I called Beto, and I was like, "Man, Beto, what's going on?" You know, I mean, I know and I learned at that moment that, you know, if you don't bend at the waist when you're shooting downhill or uphill, your anchor point changes. And I tested this at home, you know, and I was like, man, so it's just amazing how not bending properly can completely change your anchor point, and you'll shoot over stuff if you're shooting downhill. So that was a big aha moment for me, especially because we do it so much. What I want you to do
for me right now is I want you to get into a shooting form right now, just sitting there right now. Get in your shooting form just like that. Okay, so you have an animal in front of you. Now, what you were doing before is that animal was downhill and you dropped your bow arm, right? As you drop your bow arm, you change everything. You change everything that happens there, because a lot of times
that tee is gone.
Yeah, everything is off that. And because most of the time, all of this backside, your elbow and now you're bending at the waist. But if you sit back up, and I want you to keep your head locked in, keep that back elbow locked in, and I want you to drop that bow arm only. Drop that bow. Now look how it changes everything, right? And it's not going to be that extreme that he drops that. You know,
Yeah, it's
usually
enough
it's
to be
just a little
6, 8
bit of an
inches
angle,
high.
but now you have changed everything.
Everything. I mean,
point.
the way you look, your eye looks through that peep changes.
Yep.
It just, yeah. And again, that
but you
was a
bend
big
at
one
the
for me.
waist, everything stays in perfect
That's
form.
right.
Yeah,
That's what you need to try to do is just kind of keep that line, 90 degrees with your torso.
Absolutely, man.
Yes.
So huge moment.
I
right
tell
there.
everybody that's in a tree stand, I draw straight out, and then I go down to the animal, and I bend at the waist, right? And
You go down after you anchor point
after I
is
get to the
done.
anchor, yeah.
Yep, he bends at the waist, and he lets his waist put him on.
If you watch my son draw, if you watch him draw, he draws straight back. He'll get to the anchor, and then he goes to the animal. Right.
And and what he's talking about is when he goes from Texas to the mountains, now we're going up and down with shots. So we might not be in a tree stand, but we're shooting elevations up and down, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the last thing for me is just becoming a believer with wind. I always thought, it's like, man, there's no way. I mean, there's no way they can smell us and so on and so forth. But yeah, so hunting behind Joe, it's got to be careful there.
Hey, that's where. Now this is where you should learn to be the leader and not the follower.
Yeah,
it was my fault, honestly. I made paella the time before.
Hey, all I'm going to tell everybody is wait for the video. It's coming out. You can see what we're talking about.
So yeah, but I mean, honestly, for those of you non-believers out there, I'm sure there still are. I was an unbeliever in that wind is one of the main factors that you have to keep into consideration in order to be successful. It is. I mean, several, and some people may be stubborn like me, and until they actually realize the situation and have that happen to them over and over, it's you're able to tell. I was in public land one day, and I was actually with a friend of mine, and I saw the pigs coming in, and I felt the wind going in that direction, and I'm like, I turned around and told my friends, like, let's see if the wind hitting them actually make them go away. We're not moving. We're static. These pigs are coming. All of a sudden, man, it was like somebody hit him
like
in the face with a crappy mop.
Yeah.
And they just turned around and it went running like there's no tomorrow. They started running almost as if if I had taken a shot at them.
Yeah.
And so, we didn't move. So it just, it makes a difference, guys.
You can see it on an elk. You can see an elk when they're coming in, and when you start seeing them checking, they're gonna check. And sometimes they're just not sure and they're checking. And you'll know now if you see them, if they start doing this, if you see this on YouTube, you'll see this on YouTube. If they start licking their nose and they start doing this little head bob, they're checking. But if you see them do the head bob and then it goes up,
King's
you are done.
Yeah, they've caught that scent line, and they're out of there, man. And what they'll do is they'll get that nose up and they'll turn right with it, man. I mean, and they're out of there. So once they sense you, man, they're
it's over with.
So you can have a plan to hunt the next day, but it'll be dictated by the wind.
Sure.
Now, if you have the crosswind.
But I'll tell you, there are times that we want to do something where the wind's not right coming out of camp, and what we have learned to do is to walk with the wind directly at our back, knowing that nothing's going to be in front of us. But as we move, we can still work our sides, and we can get to the area we want to, and then we can turn and come back through either higher or lower over the ridge or something like that.
Hoping when you do, the wind doesn't change on you.
Yeah, it happens.
That happens. Sure enough happens. Wind's crappy in both directions.
There are those aha days that it seems like, right, Chav? Like no matter
Stayed
what.
in camp.
Yep, the windflower was there.
It's like no matter what, we're walking with the wind at our back. It's like the
And walking
craziest
uphill the whole time.
phenomenon.
I can tell you that.
But yeah, though, I mean, we got plenty, right? But those are the three main ones I thought that I could share today.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, guys, I'll go next. The aha moments are countless for me. I've been hunting all my life since I was a young man, like my son, and bow hunting many days in the field. And I was totally humbled when I came to the West and went on a real live elk. I mean, Carl, I started hunting with Carl Gamage with Custom Hunting Services there. And Carl was just an unbelievable outfitter. No nonsense. We're going to take you through, going to give you the grand tour the first day. And look, I thought he was literally trying to kill me. I knew he was a drill sergeant of the Army. And I'm like, this old son of a gun is trying to kill my fat butt, and he learned real quick that I wasn't going to be able to do what he needed me to do, right? So the first big aha moment for me was I got to hunt with Carl and RC and several of the other guides, but man, I sure liked the way Joe went after things. And I'm like, man, I told Carl, I said, man, I got to go hunt with Joe. He hunts kind of like my style when I'm deer hunting. I mean, I'm aggressive and stuff. I want to hunt with Joe. He looked at me and he laughed. That's all he did. He walked outside. He's thinking to himself, that fat son of a gun ain't hunting with Joe Gilbert. I promise you, man. At the time, I weighed 335 pounds, right? I mean, I was big. And so I talked to Joe several times. Joe had an aha moment, and he's like, I don't know if I want this big fat son of a gun up hunting with me or not. But he challenged me, and he said, listen, you lose the weight, I'll take you hunting, but you got to do the work. So I did the work, and it took me a year to shed about 60 pounds. It's about 60 because I came in about 275, 280.
It was a big change.
Big, huge change. Yes. And so I could take one break going up the chute instead of 10 breaks, Joe having to drag my butt up the chute. So I would just look at
the chute is a real steep area that kind of a trail that you use to get from one elevation to another. Yeah, real quick.
And look, when we first started hunting with Carl, you didn't have no motorized vehicles. It was walking straight out of camp. And when you hit the first ridge, it's like that. Okay, I mean, straight up, little tabletop to a road, another one. Oh yeah, you're at the top. It's straight up from there another 1,000 feet, right? And so look, Joe, they love doing it, and Joe was the best at it. He was in great shape, man. So I got my butt, and I mean, look, round is a shape, people. So I got my butt a little bit less round, and got up there with Joe. And he put me on bull after bull after bull after bull. And a couple of years of him putting me on bulls and me passing bulls, he finally cornered me up, and we had an aha moment. He goes, look, dude, you got to quit passing these bulls up, man. I can drag these things in front of you, and you draw and count coup and everything. That's great, but you got to quit passing them up. I said, Joe, it's my money. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not shooting any bull. I'm shooting the bull. So call me in a big one, Joe. So we had some, I even shot a couple of bulls that were marginal hits. They found one of them one time. The next year, we didn't find one of them. But I learned some incredible tracking skills, and I learned some incredible elk behavior getting inside of a herd of elk. Make a long story short, Joe, I think it was the second or third year I hunted with you. You called a big bull in for me, and I made a really good shot, but it was still it was a killing shot. But I got one lung in the liver, and the bull was quartering to me a little bit. So we ended up finding him the next day. That was a long, lengthy. It seemed like that night was going to go forever. I mean, I'd wake up 10 times and it'd be like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I'm like, oh my God, I needed to get to 7 here quick, right? So we get up and we find the bull, and it is amazing jubilation. We had some help, and the guys that, if they're listening to this podcast, they know who they are. Couldn't have done it without them. It was an amazing moment. Got to share with my brothers. I got to share it with the late great Carl Gamage. R.C. Knox was there. Joe Gillia, Ross Miller, Scott Deaton. I mean, there were just a lot of good guys in camp. Bruce Gaynor, a lot of good guys in camp that week that were personal, real close friends of mine. So to have those guys with me was especially important. But the aha moment came when I decided to take my daughter elk hunting. And I like I said, I knocked that bull down. It took us a little while to find him, took him, and I'm like, I need to study the anatomy of these bulls better. I need to get better at understanding shot placement and how to put these animals down quick. Real good at it with deer, right? So I take my daughter elk hunting, and she shoots a bull with her crossbow at 41 yards. When she hit this bull, she hit him back and about 3 inches high of center. And when I say back, it was 9 inches behind the crease, maybe 10. Okay. And when she hit that bull, blood flew out of him like you'd hit a oil well back there. Boom. I mean, it just shot out of him in the video. He made one circle about 15, 18 yards and was feet up in less than 15 seconds. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, this is where you need to shoot these bulls from now on. Right. And, I came back and I told Joe about it and everything. And the next year I killed a bull with Chav, and I hit that bull the same spot. And I've been shooting bulls in that same vicinity for the last 6-7 years. And I'm telling you, what that bull last this year, Joe?
This year?
Yeah.
30
seconds.
13 seconds, maybe.
The year before?
About 6 to 10 seconds. Yeah.
So when I tell you about the aha moment, that was an aha moment for me.
And what I tell people is you want to, I hate to tell somebody, 10 inches behind that crease.
I know.
Yeah, and so I'm like 3 to 4 inches behind that crease, because that way, and I'm not sure about angle all the time, but it is what it is. But when you're 3 to 4 inches behind that crease, you're giving yourself 3 to 4 inches on each side. You know what I mean? So
when you look at the anatomy and the diagram of it, in the high part of the lung, there's a ganglia of big arteries that gang up in that lung. And when you hit that, and it's about a 5-inch circle, 6-inch circle in there. When you hit that spot in there, it's King's X. It's over with. It's almost paralyzing to them.
Right.
They fill up with blood and boom, they're done, right? I aimed for that same spot. I had a bull quartering to me quite a bit this year. I aimed for that same spot, touched it off, and it was actually a little forward than where I thought it was going to be. And it was money. And that bull was feet up and, like Joe said, 15, 18 seconds.
Same thing. My bull must have died in 10 seconds, man. I mean, it didn't go 30 yards and he was feet up. But that's what you just said, though, was my key point that I'm making, because you said, I hit it a little bit forward of what I thought, and you were still on the money. And that's why, I think for most guys in that moment, and we're talking about our grinders out there, most guys, especially if they're white tail oriented, they're always looking at that shoulder, right? And the problem with that is you go 3 inches to the front end of that animal, now you're hitting a shoulder, you're hitting a shoulder bone. So I really like that 3 to 4 inches behind that crease. As you know, you go up and you go back a little bit. Now you're giving yourself some leeway. If that animal's quartering, you don't quite know it, because that can happen real easy just on how their head's turning, right?
You bet, or their angle. You know?
But man, you get that spot back there. There's a lot of lung back there that most people don't realize, right?
Yeah, like I said, man, Lacey hit at least 9 inches back.
Oh,
and it was all lung. I mean, big bubbles of blood. I mean, big frothy bubbles coming out. I'm like, man, there's a lot of room back there, you know?
Absolutely, man.
So that's why I tell you, like Joe said, you know, if you're 3 inches from the crease, you got 3 inches to the crease, and then you got 3, 4, 5 inches past the crease back there. That's a perfect spot, like Joe's saying, that 3 inches behind the crease.
I'll say 3 to 6 inches behind there, man. I mean, it's and depending on angles, right?
Right. And for me, I like to be a little bit high center. If I can get center, that's perfect. I made a 58-yard shot with Chav, and it was center punched, but it was back. It was a good 6-8 inches behind the crease, but center punched. And that bull didn't run 35 yards and died.
No, he was dead before he thought about it.
Yeah. So those are aha moments for me. Is not about just getting on the bulls and stuff. I mean, that's unbelievable, the stuff that you got to do to get your body ready for that. And when you are ready, when you are physically ready, you're mentally ready, and then you learn the anatomy. And I tell guys all the time, if y'all don't understand the anatomy of elk, or you think you know it, y'all go back and watch our anatomy podcast. It's the best podcast in the world for that. I got one other aha moment, Joe.
Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding.
And it was, for me, understanding that when you're shooting downhill, okay, when you're shooting steep angles, you don't have to use pins to do that, okay? I learned ease, and now look, I want everybody to practice this when they go out. But a lot of times we got to shoot straight down the mountain, or, you know, straight up the mountain. I actually did this. I shot at a big mule deer one time with Carl Gamage, and He told me it's 31 yards. Well, it was straight down the hill. I used my 30-yard pin and I slapped that arrow across top of his back. And I mean, man, 31 yards, brother. I ain't missing no deer. I'm going to tell you straight up. I'm going to center punch him every time. And I said, man, that deer must have dropped down and crossed it. Oh, you just shot high. You missed, you know. I'm like, I did not miss. So I went down there, sure enough, had hair and a little bit of blood, not much. Just slapped him across the top of the back. So I got back to camp, failure moment. I'm like, man, I got to eliminate that. So I didn't even pick my rangefinder up. I just went down there and I put it down there 40 yards downhill with my rangefinder after I shot it. I shot it with my 40-yard pin. I missed the whole dang block, shot clean over it. I'm like, what is up with that? So I shot it with my 30-yard pin, and I barely stuck the arrow in the top of the block. I'm like, man, I grabbed my 20-yard pin. I mean, money right in the 10 ring, right? I'm like, goodness, right? Fast forward this year, shooting down the mountain, right? I'm 57 yards. I used my 40-yard pin, really gapped it with my 30 and 40, sent it, and it was money. You know, because I knew that I've been through that before. But it's that aha moment of me having to go through that. You guys need to practice that shot when you're shooting in the mountains, right? Especially out west.
One thing that's going to tell you that, Gilbert, that people can only do by practicing that, and it's hard to duplicate it unless you've got the areas to do it. And what's cool is Luis, I saw a video of Luis shooting in one of his places that he goes to shoot 3D targets, and they had an upper level that he was able to shoot from, so that he could mimic some of that stuff. But
we do that together at Texas Archery.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. But the thing is you got to realize how much of that waist bend you're doing, and that's going to do a lot of key for you. I mean, if you really feel yourself pinching on that waist, that tells you maybe now I'm in my 20 pin at that. You know, if you're not pinching all the way down, then maybe you've got to do that stuff you've got to feel it. You've got to have something to gauge it by, you know.
That's a good reference, Joe. I like that, actually.
Yeah, it's just
depending on how much you're feeling your back incline, and use that as a reference.
Exactly.
That.
Either way, like if I'm having to go up, you're going to get a pinch in your waist that's going to tell you how extreme you are. If you're not feeling that, and it's just a slight, then you're not going as far down as what you think you are, right? When you're bending down. So those things, just feel it, and you know, when you're taking those shots, really observe what your body's doing so that you can carry that into the woods. Because other than the way you feel, you're not going to know, because the mountains are different from a tree stand in that you might feel like you're on flat land sometimes, and you're not, right? So it's a little bit different. For me, my aha moments have to do with me as a caller, and with me probably mentally as a person in some ways, I guess, is the best way to put it. I think as a caller, I've had two really huge aha moments, and both times I'm with Chav. One time we have a small raghorn in front of us, and that small raghorn, probably when we have him in front, I mean, we're out in the type of area where there's junipers and everything else is kind of clear around there, and some grass and stuff, and so we have a clear sight of this animal. We have some stuff around us so that we're good. If he's coming in, have some trees off to the right, some aspen and stuff, but clear view of this bull at 80 yards, and he's ripping out a tree with his horns. And so me having to always be the person to call things in, you know, I look at this bull and I'm like, here, man, I'm gonna get him to come in. But you know, we all think when we see a smaller bull. Now, when I say he's a satellite, he's bigger than most raghorns. He's a nice bull. But in my mind, I'm going, well, I don't want to scare him off with an aggressive bugle, so I'm just going to throw out a little, you know, juvenile bull, man. We have other names for it, but I'm just going to throw that out there and sound like a weak bull. And I do that. He would lift his head and he'd go back to the tree. I'd do it again. He'd lift his head and he'd go back to the tree. I'm getting frustrated. There's a point where I'm going, Chav, I'm gonna friggin' just stand up and walk in and go shoot this son of a buck, which I probably should have done in the first place because he was so preoccupied, right? So I got caught up in wanting to call. So here's the interesting thing. I said, you know, I'm gonna try one more thing. I turned back behind me and I screamed like the gnarliest, biggest herd bull that you would ever hear, man. That bull hears that and gave me the exact opposite reaction of what I thought he would do. He turned, and he's coming, and he comes right in, and yes, so another aha moment is he actually comes, he's going by behind two aspen trees at 30 yards. And so the first thing in my mind is, well, I'm going to draw so he doesn't see me, and I'm going to draw back when his head gets behind the tree. Well, I do that, and everybody that's listened to us now knows exactly what happened. I draw when his head goes behind. As I'm finishing my draw, he comes on the other side. He catches the movement. He stops broadside staring at me for, I don't know, it seemed like 3 daggone months before he decided to take another step, and I was able to finish him, right?
Vitals behind a tree.
Yeah, I mean, I was at full draw forever till he finally relaxed and took a step to where I could take him. So, you know, that lesson with the behind the trees, you never draw until they're in the clear because they're going to stop. Now, the other aha moment was, and I want you to hear this, people calling, is why did that bull not come to a lesser bull that he wasn't worried about and came to a loud sounding herd bull? Well, I'm going to tell you why. That lesser bull meant nothing. You know, if you're in a bachelor mood, if he's in that pal mode, well, yeah, he might go over there. He wasn't in that pal mode. He's in there raking that tree. He's feeling his oats a little bit. So he don't want to go over there with a bull that don't mean nothing. He heard that mature, aggressive bull down there and the type of bugle it was with that lip ball sound down there, and that message. What is that message? That message is, that's a herd bull displaying for what? Cows. Right?
Yep.
Now he's interested because now he knows he has a herd with cows. And he's not interested in going and getting his butt kicked, but he's interested in going and dragging on that herd to see if he can go ahead and have him an opportunity at a cow. Remember, herd bulls are not able to breed a cow but one time in that amount of time, and other bulls are going to have the opportunity, and that's what those satellite bulls are waiting for. So that's what I want you to understand is not always is sounding like a smaller bull just because you don't want to scare something off. You can sound as equal to, or when I was sounding like that herd bull, I wasn't challenging with him. I was doing a display bugle to make it sound like I was working with some ladies. I had nothing to do with him over there. I wasn't even talking to him. It was like I was ignoring him, and yet it brought him in. That was a huge aha moment that I hope you guys understand with that, all right? Because what they're hearing and how they're going to react to that. Now, if I had turned and I screamed a challenge bugle right at him, it probably would have lost everything right there. And I'll tell you, the other aha moment happened when Chav and a buddy and myself, we were going to an area. We always used to I put my bow on the front of my ATV, just hook it into, you know, those little bow clamps that would be on the front of an ATV. Well, what happens is as we're going, it's muddy. I get some mud inside one of my cam grooves, and I always break my bow over before I go into the woods, and I go to do that, and that mud inside that cam groove blew my bow up. It rolled that cable right off. It cut me on the arm. I mean, it just, my bow became pieces right there. And that was a lesson in that we never travel without our bows being in a bow case. But that was just a catalyst for the lesson I learned, because after we got done that day, we got back to camp, and I told the guys, I said, I'm heading home, man. I'm going to go get my second bow. And, about that time, I don't know, I had probably killed about 20 bulls in the last 20 years, and I had never made a big deal out of it, but guys that I hunted with kept track of that stuff, and would always talk about Joe's streak and everything, you know, almost to the point where it probably got in my head a little bit at sometimes, you know, put a little pressure on me, but that's okay. I put enough pressure on myself. But I got home, and when I got home, I came in the front door. My wife is just, you know, what are you doing home? You're supposed to be up in the mountains, you know. It took a long time to get out of those hills and get back home, and I get home that evening, and I said, well, babe, I said, my bow blew up, and, you know, I'm going to have to go get my other bow set up, go out and shoot it and everything like that. And, you know, and the first thing I did, and I hope you guys listen to this, man, was I gave myself an excuse. I started giving myself a justification. I started feeling a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the first thing I said to my wife to take all this, that pressure I've been feeling, was I said, you know, I guess there's going to be a year I don't get one. I mean, that's exactly what I told her. I guess it's going to be the year I don't get one, you know. My bow just busted, and I've got all these excuses trying to get another bow ready and blah, 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 and everything like that. And, you know, my aha moment came from my wife, and she don't cut me no slack, let me tell you. And
the good ones never do.
and she looked at me. Here I am. I'm 6 foot, you know, 220 pounds, and my wife's like 5'2" and a quarter. 5'2" and a quarter. That she always reminds me of. She's about 105 pounds soaking wet. She looks up at me and she says, you know, she said, I never thought it was about the equipment. I thought it was about the hunter behind the equipment. I mean, you talk about hit in the face with a crappy mop, right? Yeah. Oh, she drove that dagger down deep, and I mean, she called my bluff right there, you know. Yeah. And she was exactly right. You know, she said that it rocked me. Yeah. I took a step back and I got hit with my own medicine, and you know, we have those times. We have those times of weakness, and it's just like us as a group. Sometimes it takes somebody else picking you up. You know what? I went outside the next morning. I was out there the next morning. I got that bow. I'm instinctive. I checked my knocking point and according. I don't need a whole lot, man. I went out there, shot it. I put about 100 arrows in the air that day before I took off again. Made sure everything was shooting. Just got my feel back and everything like that. I got back to camp that evening, and the guys were back at camp. Went out the next morning. You know, after we've been hunting, I don't know how many days, Chav, we had been hunting up there. I can't remember, man, but it'd been quite a bit. Went out the next morning after all of that and killed my bull that morning.
That's awesome.
Secondhand bow, and, you know, just doing what I do. Yeah. Forgetting all that other stuff and it's not about the equipment. You know, it's not about the gear. It is about us. It's about our abilities. And so I think that is a huge aha moment that all of us keep trying to pass on to all you guys out there. Yeah. Is that, you know, there is no secret piece of equipment that's going to make you consistent every year. You are what's going to make you consistent every year. Your knowledge, your abilities, your skill sets. So that was a huge one there. So
well, it is about the equipment. When Luis got the new bow, and I never have the new bow. It is, of course, about the equipment.
Oh man!
Yeah, he wouldn't have got it if it wasn't for the bow, right?
Oh yeah. Man. I wish you would have caught that on video. That would have been epic, man.
You know what? Some things are not meant to be videoed, because I thought I was videoing it. Yeah, that was classic. That was pretty classic. Yeah. But you know, so let's put it back a little bit. And when we say it's not about the equipment, you have to know your equipment. You have to be proficient with your equipment. You know, that's all part of it. But you know, it is the tool. It is just a tool, right? You are the master behind the tool. I mean, I can give people a hammer and tell them to go build a house, and if they don't have a clue what they're doing, that house ain't going to happen. You know, it's going to look like
Don't
crap,
matter
man.
if it's the best hammer in the world.
It doesn't matter. It can be the highest price hammer in the world, man, but you got to know what to do with it. You got to know what to do with the hammer.
Right.
All right. So let's talk about special personal elk hunting moments.
Oh, man, Joe, I got so many, brother. but
we don't have a
Let's talk about
24-hour
two
show.
of them.
I'll just go real quick. Okay. The
Okay.
very first elk I saw with you guys. That first morning we went out, first morning we went out walking out of camp. You guys didn't get to see this elk, but I did get to see it. And that was like priceless for me. It got me hooked when I saw that elk coming. I was like, wow, I didn't think they were that big. So then the first elk I ever called in, and you, Joe, took me out later in the afternoon to a park, and we sat down and you kind of walked me through the process of calling, and we started making sounds with the diaphragm, because that's what it was back then. It probably still is a little bit, but man, we started getting responses, and we actually got some elk to come in, and that was like, I was in cloud nine that day. I just couldn't believe that, that it could be done,
Me either.
So, and then obviously the other great moment was when I actually called in the elk for Brandon and Manano. So being able to call that elk in a couple of times for those guys was like, it felt so rewarding. And it's such a huge accomplishment, right? Because that to me is like the ultimate goal, is to be able to call in an elk for either one of you guys, and you guys be able to harvest that elk. So
What did that do for your mentality as a caller?
it gives you, it validates your efforts of practicing, and it gives you, you feel more comfortable doing it,
Yeah. Yeah. You can.
Yeah.
You believe,
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, at the beginning when I was out in the woods and I would try to kind of throw out a little cow call, I felt embarrassed to even do it. Like, it's as if people were actually listening to me. I could hear Beto saying, "Oh my God, that sounds like a friggin' cat."
You sound like Brandon now. Like, whoa, man. Whoa, no, come on, put that away.
So yeah, I mean, it gives you confidence and makes you feel better. It's like, well, I mean, elk can also sound pretty bad, and you can still call them in. So it's
Absolutely, man.
that worked. And then being with Manano when he killed the elk, not this last hunt, but the one prior to, when we were all set up in a triangle and that bull was coming in and he shot it, and I got to see the whole thing, the arrow flying, and that was the first time I was with Manano watching him kill a bull. So that was epic for me. And then lastly, obviously, my first elk harvested with both of you guys, which I
filmed.
You did.
And it was
A star.
Triple A.
Instead of improving, though, you've kind of degraded with the years, but that's okay. You started off good, though. You started off really good.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, those are those moments, and in that one moment when I was super emotional when I harvested that elk, extremely emotional. It was just like just so many things going through my head. The only thing I wish that I would have had, to make it even more perfect than what it was, is for Chav and Gilbert to be there with me as well, because we're part of my journey. So,
dude, you wanted like bleachers set up, huh?
Yeah, man.
I just wanted to share that moment with them, especially
I feel
with
you, dog. I feel you, dog.
Gilbert had been with me on every single elk hunt I've ever been, and the one thing is I just wanted to make sure that, he was there. So
Nobody
Yeah,
more proud than me, brother. I promise you.
Yeah, all he had was me and Manano, man. You know, so it was
That's it.
like,
Oh man, don't. Yeah, come
I'm
on.
giving
That's
you
not
heck,
what I
man.
meant.
I got you.
We were jumping and
Yeah.
giving applause.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Me and
So
Manano
cool.
are hugging each other. We were happy.
No,
We were pumped.
no.
Look,
So
look, I'm gonna tell you right now, the video that was shot after the bull died, the video that was shot during the hunt and during the kill was amazing. But the video that came after that is of epic proportion. And I don't know.
Outstanding.
I do not know that you could find something more genuine and real that's out there today. I see a lot of hunting videos.
Yeah, there's no camera guy jumping.
Camera
There's
A.
no cut. There's no cut. There's no refilming that scene.
Yeah.
That's straight up jubilation to
It
the
was.
bone. I mean, unbelievable.
Camera A started really good, especially with the kill shot. Immediately after, when I got emotional, I started talking. Camera A started turning to camera C and D, started filming other stuff and talking while we were getting emotional.
I don't care about
Joe was like, Manano, film here. We're here.
I don't care about you. I was selfish.
We're having a conversation.
I was being
We're having a
selfish.
conversation. He sees another elk, man. There goes the camera. It's over. It's like,
Just
okay,
to see
we've.
just to see the cool admiration of for each other and the love that they have.
It was an awesome
Yeah,
moment, man.
I
It
would-
really was.
I would say that was one of my best moments.
Yeah.
Also,
You, Gilbert?
Man, phew, there's a lot of moments there, Joe. I've been so blessed to have you guys in my life for the last 12 seasons. But I would be remiss to say that if I didn't mention this guy as a special elk hunting moment. The late Carl Gamage was such a staple in my life. He was a close personal friend, almost like a second dad. And I mean, my relationship with him was so special. And it started out me just being a client, and I remember the first time that, I'd already killed a bull, or I'd wounded one, and they found him a couple days later. And I'd been hunting with him maybe about 3 years. And I had a group of hunters coming in on a muzzleloader hunt, and they were clients of mine. And something happened, and a guy couldn't cook, so he had to have Ross cook. And he just walked in the bedroom to me, and he goes, "Big O," and I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "Gonna put you as junior guide." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "You gotta be crazy, Carl." I said, "Junior guide?" "Yeah, you've been making good sounds with that cow call. Just keep doing that." I'm like, oh my gosh, right? So just to have the confidence, and he would have never sent me out there if he didn't know I could do it, right? And just to send me out there with these guys, and I mean, it was one of the worst days in the world to call. 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts, man, and freezing cold temperatures. And that morning, we killed 5 bulls that morning with 6 guys. So all 5, there were 5 bulls hit the ground that morning. My customer that was with me, a really good dude named Jeremy Christofferson, he was just, stoked to be in elk country, and wind was blowing. We really didn't feel like we were going to see anything, but we had the wind in our face, man, and we got in the middle of this little spot, and man, I took my cow call out, and cow called the first rip and didn't hear anything. We just kept moving forward about 200 yards, and I stopped, and I thought I heard a bugle. And I said, "Did you hear that, JC?" And I knew if we heard a bugle, it was going to be right on us, And I said, "Man, I'm going to cow call." And I took my bugle tube out, and I just kind of screamed a location bugle. Oh my God, it was like 400 bulls just opened up. The skies opened up with bulls bugling, man. I mean, they just start going on. I'm like, oh my. He looked at me and he goes, "Surely that's a recording." I'm like, heck no, that ain't a recording. So we just ease down around this corner, and we pop out around these jack pines, and it is a mega herd of bulls and cows in there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like 22 bulls in this group, right? And they're out in the middle of this meadow fighting like cats and dogs in the mud. One big black bull that's just bullying everybody around and everything. And JC decides he wants to shoot that bull. And I mean, we got some big 6x6s out there. He wants to shoot this gnarly horn, got the drop tine on him and one horn coming out the middle. I mean, it was crazy looking, but he was the biggest bull in the bunch, you know. Joe, he ended up shooting that bull, and we shot him 5 times with a 50 caliber muzzleloader, and he kept getting up. The last time he shot him running down the hill right at us in self-defense, and he shot him right in the chest, and that did him in. But he took 5 shots of a 50 caliber muzzleloader. So it taught me, number one, how tough and man, he laid those shots like this in the crease, man. I mean, just from the shoulder into the crease. I mean, you could lay a butter dish over him. I mean, it's beautiful, you know. And I just learned how quick that those were. And I came back on the you know, Carl gives us the radio. I come back on the radio and I said, hey man, I got a bull down. He goes, is he down? I said, well, he keeps picking his head up. He says, shoot him until he don't get up. Okay. So, I mean, seriously, we put 5 slugs in that son of a gun because he kept getting up, Joe. So I called Carl back. I said, we can't load the muzzleloader again, but he's finally down. He goes, well, good God Almighty. You can tell, you know, that ain't what he said. But he said, good God Almighty, how many times did y'all shoot him? I said, 5 times. He goes, I didn't know you had that many GD bullets. You know? So I come back into camp, and he's like, there's no doubt in my mind you could get it done. He said, you know, Carl liked to partake in some libation a little bit, and he'd had a little bit that evening, and he put his arm around me, and he told me he loved me. That was the first time he'd ever said anything like that to me, and that meant the world to me. To have that guy's admiration and his, you follow me? Have
absolutely,
his
man.
Love and admiration. So it was a beautiful moment, being able to hunt with one of the great men in my life. And then, you know, Joe came to me after Carl passed, and he said, look, we gotta do something here. We gotta keep this going, you know, somehow, some way. And we found a way, didn't we, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And what you guys are seeing is the way.
Yeah, it's the product. It's the product of it. You know, the other special moment, man, was me killing my first bull, watching my son kill his first bull, watching my daughter kill hers. But for me, the special elk hunting moments was the first time I got to meet Chav and hunt with him. I met him after my first bull kill. I met him in, was it Las Vegas? Wagon Mountain, yeah. I met you in Wagon Mountain. You were driving the bookmobile, and I met you there, and you got to see my bull. Yeah. He goes, where'd you kill that bull? And I told him yada, yada, and he goes, oh, I've got some friends hunting up there. I said, really? He goes, yeah. I said, who's your friend? He goes, Joe Gillia. I said, get out of here, man. I said, that's my guide. Oh, you're Gilbert. Oh my gosh. It was crazy how we met, right?
Yeah. You knew Chav before you knew Chav.
I did, yeah. Infamous, right? The elk ninja for sure. And so the next year we're going to hunt, and Joe goes, listen, man, I'm going to have to guide these other guys you're bringing and stuff. He said, I'm going to put you with my brother, Chav, and you guys are going to hunt together. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's got to be a big deal, because Joe's not been without Chav in a very, very long time hunting together. And I think it happened where Joe and Chav got to hunt a few days before we came in.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Like that. And I got to go with Chav, and we went on this epic journey. And I mean, it was crazy epic. And we heard a bull a long way off, and Chav's like, well, we ain't hearing nothing else. So let's go to him. We'll get there when we get there. And we get up there, and it's the first time that I called a bull in for another hunter, and it was Chav, man. I got to call a bull in for Chav, and I'm not talking about no little bull either. I'm talking about a giant. and we got to see two herds collide in the middle of us.
Yeah, that was an aha moment for Chav, that hunt too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for real. And we got him hooked up after that. And but man, I called that bull in to less than 10 yards for him.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And the whole time he was coaching me what to say and when to say it.
Right.
Not because I knew exactly what I was saying, but man, when I had him fired up, he'd just be like, "Go do that again, do that again." And man, I'd do it again, and then he'd say, "Step on him." You know, when that bull would build, I'd cut him off, and man, it was totally epic, man. When this bull come in, and then another one come in from the bottom, I'd already killed a bull, or we would have been done. You know, I mean, we'd have both killed out.
What was that aha moment to that, Chav? You remember?
Yeah, I was using a mechanical broadhead, and it opened up early, so it didn't penetrate very much.
Yeah,
was,
not
2 inches. Yeah,
and then
it was in the pocket too, babe. I mean, it was right where it needed to be, just got no penetration.
Yeah.
And when you're walking straight down a mountain, the GPS is going to read the same distance for a long time.
Good God, that's the longest 1.8 miles of my life, son. It was like I felt like I was in.
We were up high. And we continued to track that elk going up the hill, and that was the longest hike I've ever had going downhill, and with the downfalls.
For Chav to say that,
crazy.
Son, I'm telling you, it was brutal. I mean, when Manano likes to say, when I say it was a hike, that's a mega hike, son. I mean, a mega hike.
It was something else. What about for you, Chav? Any personal elk hunting moments that are special?
There's been a lot of them. I can remember two in particular. One was we were hunting above the cabin where Carl stays, and you called an elk from about a mile away. I could see it coming, and I said, "No, it can't come this far," and it kept coming and coming and coming. And then it held up at about 70 yards. And I saw you draw back, and I go, 70 yards? I said, that's, I can hardly see it. It's way out there. And all of a sudden you release and went, and it looked like the arrow just hung in the air. And then it went whack, right in the kill zone. And I remember that being just an amazing shot, I thought. But the one hunt that stands out all the time was our last day hunt. We loaded up our truck. We used to call it Blackie. It was a 1987 Nissan.
Yeah, it was an old Nissan.
4x4, yeah. So we loaded it up, and we said, "Well, we'll load it up."
I think we bought it for like $1,500 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So we headed back home, and we said we're going to stop and do one last hunt. And so we hiked probably about a half mile, and then we split up. And this is another aha moment for Joe, where he found out that if he puts on a show, he killed an elk. There was a large group down there, unbeknownst to me, he killed an elk. And then he started to just bugle and bugle and bugle and bugle just to get my attention so I could go over there and help him out. But what he did was he attracted a whole bunch of elk that came by, and a spike stepped about 10 steps in front of me, and I shot it. So when we finally did meet, we had both killed an elk about, a half mile apart, maybe?
Yeah, probably so.
But a good half mile from the truck. So, to carry all that, it took us, I don't know how many hours, but it was a mile round trip.
I'm glad you thought it was a half mile, because it was 1 mile, bud, from where we were. It was a ways.
Still a long way, man.
And then it started raining on us, which kind of helped because it cooled us off a little bit. But 4 trips, at least 4 trips, a piece to get all that meat back in the truck. But it was like a last second hunt again. And I think that aha moment with Joe was, he figured out, put on a show sometimes when nothing's happening, and the elk will open up.
Yeah, That's not the
happened
first
several-
time that happened, huh? We've had that happen
Yeah.
before, and I think for myself, yeah, I've had the privilege of being able to be in the front row seat of seeing every one of you guys take your first animal. And I think for me, that has been more fulfilling than any animal that I've taken myself. And I've had some incredible hunts, and but I think the thing is with myself is I'm in such a mode that most of the time my emotions and everything, I just get into a rhythm, into a structure, and everything kind of takes over, when I'm hunting. And even after the kill, I'm thinking about what I got to do to process. I mean, my mind's always working to get that animal out and stuff like that. And a lot of times, and I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten way better at stopping and smelling the roses and enjoying the moment. But
it's a curse and a blessing, because it's a curse because you're always kind of thinking ahead and probably
Right.
don't get to enjoy the exact same moment, but at the same time it's a blessing because it makes you way more prepared.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt.
and I just think there's a lot of that now is just kind of auto mode for me. And but when I get to see other people and I get to see what it does for them. I mean, when I saw Gilbert when he killed his first bull, and I mean, he was like a doggone kid waiting on Santa Claus all night long, and I thought he was going to cry on my shoulder all night long, and he was just worried. And then when he saw that bull that next morning and we saw it dead on the ground, that was 275 pounds that I saw go about 3 feet in the air, jump off the ground, and I mean, he was crying and hugging everybody. I mean, it was really special. I mean, you saw his genuineness, and that's why we hunt. And I got to see that. I was with Chav, and it always meant more for me when Chav got something, because I knew how much Chav is so unselfish, and I'm just the type of person that, hey man, you better do it or get out of the way, because I get focused and I get in the red zone, and man, next thing I know, I'm letting an arrow fly, and so he's always been that great support system, and he's always been like, man, get it done, and he's been my biggest cheerleader. So when I would see him do it, that was real special for me. And yeah, it was hard for us not to be together, but I knew Chav would give Gilbert a great experience, and it's a great yin and yang on you too. And then to be with these other guys and to see them, I mean, because of the everybody gets to hear all this razzing that happens with Luis and Manano, but these guys genuinely care about each other and love each other. And I tell you, man, there is no more happiness when they see the other one succeed, So to be able to be in the front row seat of that, what are you going to say, Gilbert?
It's short-lived, though, buddy, because I mean, it ain't 10 seconds and they're wearing each other out, man. They're like,
it's out of pure
like
love.
when they hug, okay, that's enough of that. You're sorry, you son,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
horrible.
compadre,
Yeah,
like, oh, man, here we go, yeah.
Too much touch.
Yeah.
Too much touching. Off me.
And
touchy.
I've got to see that on several occasions. I've got to see it, Luis with Manano, and then Manano with Luis, back and forth, and that, and I say that because I think probably one of the, and for me, I told you I've always been in a mode, and this year really was the year that I wanted to take a bull because I was hunting for two. I wanted to have meat at home for me and Chav, and I told Chav that I was gonna, do that for him. I would go get one for both of us. I'm hunting for two, and there was a point, and at the same time, I'm so focused on getting things for everybody else, getting it done, that sometimes I realize I'm just not going to be in the position to make it happen, and because I'm putting myself out of position, which is great, which is fine. I enjoy that. So I had kind of consigned myself to not even worrying about not thinking it was going to happen. And man, it's funny. Good things happen for whatever reason. And I've always had these gifts that have come to me in my life. I've had you guys come into my life. I've had Carl come into my life, Chav in my life. I've had, RC come into my life. I've had my wife, who's been my angel in my life. So good things happen. I don't know why they've happened in my life, but in this hunt, after already consigning myself, it was interesting how we ended up splitting. And next thing I know, I'm chasing a herd of elk, and I got Luis on my shoulder, and I did not realize, I got in that zone again, and I did what I do, and then I went up to this animal, and I did not realize how important it was for me. I felt so much emotion coming out because I wanted to do that for Chav, and I didn't have him with me on this hunt, and it hurt not to have him with me on the hunt, and it was all of that tied into that, and it was so friggin' special to be there. That there were things that you don't realize that start bubbling up out of you before you even know it, and that's how that moment was. I mean, it literally took me some time. It took me some breathing, and it took me, just to let myself let it out. And that was probably one of the most special moments ever, me personally, as a hunter. And I don't know that it had to do with my kill. It had to do with that was his kill. And it was actually, I don't know, it's hard to explain unless you're there, because I got it done for you, bro. So that was pretty daggone cool.
It was real. It was super cool, man. We'd had that conversation, the day before, Joe, that if we got into something and you needed to bail off, that, we knew what was going to happen. And sure enough, it happened. We split two herds.
That's crazy how it happened.
It was like we manifested it. We spoke it into existence. It was really cool. I knew what was going on. And look, when Joe gets in that mode, it's best just to let him roll, because you're not going to be able to keep up. I was about to die anyway. I was glad. Bye, Joe. See ya. Good luck, buddy. Call me when you need a bat to haul something out. And, look, we knew what was going on. And I told them guys, we got back to camp, me, Manano, and Brendan, and Luis, Luis was with Joe. We got back to camp. I said, listen, man, I know Joe, he ain't going back to where we parked, because it's 6 miles the other direction. I said, we just drop off into camp, and that's where he'll come. And when he comes walking into camp, he's got bloody hands. I'm like, oh yeah, we get to go get another bull out, man. That was so cool, man.
Yeah.
Manano, please close out this segment.
No, I have so many good memories, or a special moment. One of them, and I'm with Joe when he says that he finds more fulfillment out of anybody else hunting than his hunting, because I'm the same way.
And it shows.
One of them, one of them was when I was hunting with them without any tag, and I saw for the very first time in my life an elk coming to us, and I was in the back. I was the last one, and I go like, yeah, and I go, hey, there's an elk, and Joe goes, where? Over there. He's coming towards us. And long story short, Joe killed that elk in a matter of seconds. Yeah. But before that, he just turned his cap, backwards. And I realized, yeah, he's gonna kill that thing.
So yeah, because I shoot instinctive and put my fingers on my nose, so I can't have a broad bill in front of me, or it hits my string. So when I see an animal and it's getting ready to happen, I always turn my hat backwards.
Yeah, but it's cool because it's kind of like your signature. We know when animal is in trouble when that hat is getting turned.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
And after that, Luis said, there's a bear. Bear is coming. We were in the same right spot where Joe took the shot.
And so these guys don't have elk tags, but they did have bear tags.
Yeah. And
Yeah, and I don't know in what moment Luis took a shot on the bear. It was a marginal shot, of course. It was.
I got proof. I just got proof that it wasn't.
Okay,
but,
and so Joe said, "Okay, let's Manano, get your bow because I got my bow on my backpack because I didn't have any tag."
Yeah, a bow hunter with a bow strapped in his backpack, not ready to hunt. That's very prepared of you. Thank God I was there to take a shot on that bear for you, you could take a second one at it.
You know what? We were elk hunting.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any tag, so I got my bow and my tied on my backpack.
It was already dead.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So Joe said, "Manano, get your bow ready." And as he mentioned it, I just got ready my bow, and
that cow called and stopped him.
Yeah,
he turned around. He started coming towards us slowly.
Yeah. You see, it was a marginal shot.
No, he was about to die in front of us, and you pushed him away.
No, he was about to kill us.
He was going to disembowel everybody.
Yeah.
And
I sent a missile, and he was done.
Yeah.
And,
talk about a marginal shot. You even took part of his eye out.
That was a great shot.
They ended up crisscrossing this bear.
Both kill shots.
It was a quartering away for Luis from one side, and it was a quartering away for Manano from the other side, and that
bear never had a chance. Man.
Never had a chance.
And honestly, that was one of the most
special moments,
best moment or representing moment in my life as a hunter, because I believe I got it on video. Joe said I don't know how many years guiding and hunting, and I have never seen in my entire life or never hear another hunter talking about shooting an elk
and a bear
in
the same spot within 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So the bear was actually coming into the cow calls.
The New Mexico slams an elk, bear, and a turkey, or elk, bear, and a deer all in the same spot.
Yeah,
that's something, guys.
Yeah, that'd be a tough one in the same spot. Yeah, that'd be tough.
In the same hunt.
So,
the same hunt. Yeah.
But other than that, and I mean, this is no joke. Every single moment I got out, that's my best moment. I mean, it's a hunting. It's for me. It's about fulfilling my tag, but it's just. I don't know if you remember, Joe, the very first time when we got to the top, I got emotional, man. That was a beautiful moment for me because it was my first time there, and
yeah, that spot is a spot. It really gets to you. Yeah, you get to call your wife and stuff like that at that spot too.
Yeah.
But it was the first time. It was after I realized I got service over there. But talking about good moments for me,
to help you out.
I got a bunch of them. Even Venezuela, I got a bunch of great moments. But every time I go out around people, among people like you guys, it's a great memory for me.
I agree.
So that takes us right into the good times, man, because and you guys just throw them in as we go here, because I'm going to start it off because they just mentioned it. I mean, we're on that daggum hunt. I have just shot I've just shot a bull, and you know what I'm saying. We're not done yet. We're waiting for the bull to go down. It hasn't gone very far, and Luis was, Joe, you hit that bull right here, and Manano's like, no, he didn't. He hit it right there, and they're like massive arguing right here in the middle of the woods, and I'm like, guys, man. Oh, it's like tending to two guys in the playground sometimes, man. It's just hilarious. But look. I mean, there's been a lot. I mean, that's that's why we like what we do, because of the fun and crazy times we have at camp and different places. But there was one moment that I have, other than the soles of your shoes coming off, Gilbert, which
Oh my gosh, dude.
hilarious.
It's crazy.
But when we are in the middle of the woods and I hear this conversation going on between you and Brandon, and I heard something like a ampon, and I'm like, I could have sworn I heard them just talking about it, a feminine hygiene thing,
Product.
And I'm like,
Yes. We can say it, Joe. We thought you thought we were talking about a tampon.
and then all of a
I'm
sudden
not scared.
I hear them, talking about a man pond, and Gilbert proceeds to tell me
Explain it.
about, and I'm like, I'm in disbelief.
That's hard to do, people. Joe's been around.
and there are 5 grown men crying, and I mean, we're in the middle of an elk hunt. We are crying, rolling on the ground, and Gilbert is just as serious as can be.
The things you learn on MTV, Joe.
Oh my God, dude, you are like one of the funniest human beings I have ever been around. I mean, and when he starts doing, telling his stories, and he starts imitating the bulls, and it's just, oh
we
my
like
God.
to get animated, man. Heck, there ain't no use in telling some boring ass story, Joe.
Oh man,
You got to get with it and embellish a little bit and stuff like that. Makes it a little more interesting.
Well, you guys never heard and this wasn't even an antelope. I mean, an elk hunt. This was an antelope hunt, and Chav comes back to me, and Chav tells me, he's like, "Yeah, man, I saw this antelope out there, and he was out in the middle of the prairie, and a lot of times these antelope will let you walk right by them. They'll see you walking, they'll just stand out there, right, because you're walking by them." And Chav kind of realized that, so he said, "Yeah," he said, "so I turned my hat sideways on my head." And started walking a little bit at an angle, and he went from like 100 yards to 80 yards to 7. I don't know how he's telling me this story, how he's got his hat turned and he's walking towards this antelope, because this antelope thinks that he's walking away because of the way his hat is turned. And I'm just rolling. I'm like, dude, why don't you just turn your hat around backwards and go straight at him? But some of the stuff that we've done and that we've experienced out there is just crazy, man. It's just too much, So, anybody else before we get out of here?
Yeah, to me, it was the day that it all happened that same day. It was it was so cool for me to be able to go hunt with all of us together. And that morning was just going up that hill. It was just laugh after laugh. And then, asking Gilbert to camouflage behind that tree.
That's the pictures. It's viral now, boys. It's on Instagram.
It's on there now.
It was so funny, man. It was just that moment. It was so hilarious. Also, that same day I got to, and that could go as a special personal too, I got to follow Joe through his hunt that day, which was epic. I told him that day, that moment's going to go with me to my grave, because it was impressive to see, and everything I saw that day was unbelievable. Not a lot of people get to see what I saw that day. And then lastly, just be careful when you're out in the woods walking behind Joe. No matter how far back you are, you're not safe. And even if Manano is in front of you with a big nose, there's still stuff that's going to go by. And Manano, you're on mute.
Bunch of babies, man. I've never seen such babies, man. These guys, they're lightweights. They're lightweights. You never make it in a family of 6. That's all I'm telling you, man.
I was spitting for about an hour, and I could still taste it.
That was paella straight
Caught him
out.
with his mouth open.
Bunch of babies.
Oh my goodness.
Anybody else?
Oh man.
No, after that far, nobody talks.
That kind of kills the whole buzz, man. Man, look, that for me, the we've had, I can't tell you how many great times, man. For me, the hunting with Joe and being able and Chav and watching Joe shoot a bull. And I've actually been with Joe where we shot 2 bulls that morning. He killed a bull and I killed a bull, and being able to do that kind of cool stuff and, just be around these guys and learn from them. And, I mean, look, they're the coolest dudes in the world. I tell people that all the time. My favorite good times is when we get back from hunting and these guys cook the most amazing dishes you've ever eaten in your life. Like, you're supposed to lose weight on an elk hunt. I can't freaking wait on an elk hunt, man. So everybody is so amped up to get back to camp because these guys are just they're so selfless. They cook for everybody, and they do so much. And then, when we knock a bull down, they're the first ones in line, ready to rock and roll. I'm talking about, the mafia. And look, Brendan too. Brendan's always one to step up and help and get out there as well. But the favorite times where we come back and tell stories and and look, I got to tell you, man, this is the first year it's happened, but we had a campfire, and us sitting around that campfire and telling our story and having a podcast up there on the mountain was totally epic, man. And that's one of, my favorite good times was sitting around that thing and telling about the
having Chav there freezing his butt.
Oh yeah, and having Chav with us, I mean, there was a point in time, last year where that was questionable. We didn't know we were going to get him up there with us.
Absolutely.
And to have him in camp with us, man, was just icing, the coup de grace, icing on the cake, whatever you want to call it. But for me, it was badass. That's what it was. So I tell people stuff like that all the time. And these guys are the baddest men on the planet. And as long as I can afford it and my 2 feet will take me, I will be on that mountain hunting elk. This past year was I struggled because I had an injury, but we didn't let that be a reason that I was not going to be able to harvest an elk. We pushed through it, went that next ridge over, and everything that Joe taught me, everything that all that culminated into about 15 seconds worth of craziness. And again, everything that I learned was to be aggressive, even in the midst of chaos. I got down there, I put myself in position. The bull did what we needed to do. I drew the bow, let it go, and the rest was history. Manano caught most of it on video. It was just cool, man. So favorite good times, every time I wake up in the mountains, my favorite good time, man. So, and to be with you guys and share elk camp with the Mafia and the Ninja and WWJGD. I mean, at the end of the day, what else could be better than that, huh? Who will buy my memories? That's an old Willie Nelson song.
Oh yeah.
Chav, you want final word, man?
Well, like Gilbert said, just being out there with you guys, pretty amazing. When I was at the hospital bed, I wondered if I'd ever be able to get out to the mountains again. And even though it was only one day, it was real special. I even got to hear some bugles that night and saw some elk, and it was pretty amazing. You don't know what you miss until it's taken away, and it was almost taken away, so to speak. So, I had a lot of adventures, and like Manano said, anytime you step out there in the woods, special moment. Don't take it for granted.
Amen.
Amen.
Gilbert, why don't you close this out, man? We'll have to save our mailbox for next time.
Well, again, fellas, one of the reasons why we do this is to, help guys understand the aha moments that have really helped us. And then just to give back to our, the elk hunting community with our stories and all of the Mafia showing up and Chav. I mean, these are all really cool things near and dear to us. But, guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review. You have to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us. And you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And always a reminder, if you guys, our listeners, would like their question answered on our show, just send your question to info@elkbros.com. We won't run long every time, I promise. We will get to your questions. Fellas, unbelievable content tonight. Can't wait. Next episode is number 100.
100.
So
Take 100.
can't wait for that. Can't wait to have our special guests in the house. Like we say down here in Texas, husbands kiss your wives, wives kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Peace.